Right, everybody, we're just here because me and Laura are constantly online and stuff, and we're not allowed to gather outside. But we believe the real pandemic in Scotland is child abuse, and the hidden child abuse that no one hears about. Now, we're all in lockdown and stuff just now, but there's children being seriously exploited in Glasgow, and they're being exploited and prostituted out through flats across Glasgow. So Nicola Sturgeon said that we can find other ways to get this out, but it's the truth and it's public information, and we're not allowed to raise awareness at the moment, so that's why we're persistent in coming here, because this stuff needs spoke about. So at the end of the day, we're here to raise awareness about paedophiles. Why do paedophiles have more rights than us? Why do they have more rights at the moment to move around the country freely, and we're all stuck in lockdowns in the house? Why are the kids are all roaming the streets, have nowhere to go? They're hanging about in parks and stuff. They're drinking, and they're in danger of exploitation. There's predators hanging about these parks. Now we've had at least 6 girls telling us that once they've had a wee drink, like, these guys just appear from nowhere. Like, and then sometimes they end up that drunk, they end up in flats. There was one in Denniston just recently, and the wee girl was only 14. She ended up in a flat in Denniston, woke up and she'd been raped off about 6 guys. But this is real. Our children are in real danger of sexual exploitation and trafficking at the moment. And it's going on online, they're all stuck in their bedrooms, they're isolated. You don't know who they're speaking to, see when they're sneaking out to go and meet their pals. They're not always doing that. There was an operation in Glasgow called Operation Sarah, and it was grooming gangs in Glasgow. Now, we are exposing, this is not racist at all. I mean, there's Scottish grooming gangs and there's Scottish paedophiles that operate for the Four Corners, but these ones were all asylum seekers for the Kurdish, Afghan, Egyptian, Moroccan, Turkish, Pakistan and Iraqi. There was 55 suspected members, 46 positive IDs, and briefings from 2016 operations are stored in the archives of Glasgow's Child Protection Committee. The Child Abuse Investigation Unit, DI Sarah Taylor, there was 24 girls identified. When asked why the police kept it a secret, now the police and the Scottish Government kept this a secret from the Scottish public for 3 years. We only got to find out last year about this. This is still operating, this is what we are raising awareness about. These guys haven't went anywhere, they've not been deported. There was 14 guys deported out of 70 odds. Now, there's still like, what, 60 odds of them kicking about Glasgow, operating, grooming our children, exploiting our children. So when the police were asked why they kept it secret, they said, this is what they said they have to do what's best. What is best is awareness to keep the children safe. Yeah. Right? No, I'm saying that so it's best is awareness to keep the children safe. Yeah. But they said they had to do what's best and it wasn't in the public interest to know this stuff. Now, everybody in Glasgow that's got children, it is in your public interest to know this stuff. Because these people are operating, these guys own flats. Like, for some of them have got, I know one of these guys has got 26 flats across Glasgow, and some of them in Falkirk, some of them in Alloa, so they're scattered across the whole of Scotland. These kids are taken to Glasgow to there when they disappear for the care homes for a week at a time. They're up in Alloa, they're up in Falkirk.
Homes for letting it harm.
Stop him. You know what?
Right.
Stand up and swear.
In fact, I probably won't even need to read it. I read it this morning. We've made a freedom of information request about the numbers of child exploitation in Glasgow from 2016 to 2020. We were met with a response to say that it costs more than £600 for this information, so it can't be given. So we're not allowed to know the actual true numbers of the children that's been sexually exploited across Glasgow. We've literally been told it costs too much money to tell us. Now, we've got kids. Laura's got a 14-year-old, I've got a 19 and a 20-year-old. They're not safe in this country.
Gomas, that,
Right, so nobody wants to talk about the Rotherham style grooming guy in Glasgow. It's a systematic cover-up. A relative of a Glasgow victim. It is really our worst nightmare. This is from a relative of a victim that we've spoken to. It really is our worst nightmare. It's the Rochdale and Rotherham type stuff, and it's happening right here in Glasgow. It's not a new issue. In 2015, a report on Rotherham style grooming gangs outlined severe failings in the system to deal with these criminals, as well as not protecting the victims and the vulnerable. Someone said, with the helplessness of the victims and the relatives being evident, as well as many warnings of these ever-present and widespread child abuse rings, one cannot help but notice that there's a big silence. Now, you can't help but notice it is totally silenced. And it's real, and it must be addressed. And that's why me and Laura are here, because this stuff, we need to raise awareness, and we need people to make requests and write letters. So, shaming the SNP for letting this continue. It's time we had a government in place willing to address the problems without fear of being called racist. It's bringing convictions against child rapists and if bringing convictions against child rapists is racist, then this country is falling into despair faster than I would ever have thought. Staying quiet is only contributing to this issue, and it can't continue. We can't keep being quiet. The Glasgow Four Corners, on the 27th of September 2017, there was a grooming ring probe. It's rife child exploitation. The victim's now 17, she was 14 at the time, and there was other girls involved too. The girl at 17 still thinks the guy is her boyfriend, and she won't say what happened to her. Now these young girls are being, like, the 13, 14 in care homes, they're getting offered mobile phones, and like they gain the trust of these wee girls, and then they're their boyfriend, and then that's when the trafficking starts. They start trafficking round flats in Glasgow. And see, even trying to get these girls to give evidence at 17 and 18, the girls still believe that these guys love them, even though they've been raped off like 100 guys by this time. They still believe that these guys are their boyfriends and they love them, because they've never known love. They've never known any kind of love or affection, and these guys prey on young girls like that. So the victim's now 17. The girl was taken to Craigley Street in Denniston for sex with multiple men, along with several other teenagers. And there was an arrest made last week in Denniston. It was the same guys. It's happening in a big way in Glasgow. Nobody seems to be stopping.
13 of the two.
At all, these girls believe these guys are their boyfriends. Operation Cotswold, set to focus on the Muslim refugees who were abusing young girls in care homes. There was 26 victims identified, but no prosecutions at all. So there was 26 victims of this, and not one person get prosecuted. In 2013, Operation Dash tackled the role on the Muslim taxi services and the fast food places.
I can't swear.
And grooming and sexual abuse of young girls. It focused on the Strathclyde region and the city centre. Dash found girls as young as 10 were being sexually abused in the back of takeaway shops and in taxis. There was 84 victims, 27 suspects, and only 3 guys were arrested. Javid Amhoon, the fast food restaurant guy, he gets 6 years in prison. He's now out.
Who's on what side?
He's now out. Out of all of them, out of the 27 guys that were involved in it, one did it. He got 6 years. He done 5 years and a month, and he got out.
Who's on what side?
From prison, he tried to talk to a 15-year-old, saying, telling the wee girl. Now, this same guy, before he just got out of prison, he was talking to this wee 15-year-old in prison, and he was asking her to say the baby she was expecting was his, so that when he got out, so he was still manipulating her for prison, and she was pregnant through one of the traffickers, but no him. He was trying to get her to say that was his baby, so that he could stay in the country.
What age was she?
She was 13 when he started abusing her.
Why was no questions asked? Why? Who was this girl pregnant?
Exactly, they don't ask
Their
questions.
social services
They don't. What they say is these girls are troubled to care homes, and they choose to do it. They choose to go and do this themselves, and they're looking for this kind of attention.
I was even missing.
Exactly. And the lassies go missing for like a week at a time. And they come back with new trainers and mobile phones and hundreds of money and fags and whatever else. So out of the 3 investigations that have taken place, there was 154 victims in Glasgow. So 154 Scottish young girls in Glasgow were victims of these 3 grooming gangs. And identified victims, and at least 71 perpetrators. So out of the 71 guys involved in these grooming gangs, only 4 get prison sentences. And only 1 actually went to jail, the rest just get put in registers. So the serious problem, right, so as well as Glasgow and you've got all these grooming gangs, child trafficking across the world is a much more serious problem than anybody could imagine. There's 2 million children a year get sucked into child trafficking worldwide. 2 million children. It's already taking over the arms trade, and it is now about to take over the drugs trade. So it's in par with the drugs trade, child trafficking in the world. So in any way, I wanted to end that on Nicola Sturgeon's going to do a march in May for independence. Well, I think that we should march as a country, as Scotland, for our children and for freedom, for our own freedom. Freedom of being able to speak, freedom to raise awareness, freedom to protect our children and basically get something done in this country, because as I've already did in the lives I'm not going to, these paedophile rings are operating in many levels. It's not just the street levels. You then have the legal system, and you then have above that again.
What do you think about Sturgeon?
She's allowing it. She's not doing anything about it. And I also wanted to say, we were talking about Gavin Hill, right? We're not allowed to talk about that because apparently the people are moving, that are getting watched. But these people moved, these people have been there for 16 years. They moved long ago. These are the same guys that own flats across the whole of Scotland. They own flats in Falkirk.
Have you seen the videos of
But I've had a person...
It's a dump.
Goma, I know. Well, that's what the rich kids get to hang about there at night, but they're getting trafficked in the city centre, and all the young goth kids and that hang about Goma at night in the town. Yeah, and that's because that's closed down, because you know about the cat house in the Unders.
Especially if somebody approaches you with a
So,
side.
I just wanted to end on see these grooming gangs, right? I get contacted with a guy, but he wants to stay anonymous, because he stays in a wee village in Falkirk, and there's an Asian guy moved in to the wee village, and the Asian guy approached, he was drunk one day, and there was a woman in the shop, and he asked a 7-year-old kid to go home with him. He said, come on, and tried to pull the wee girl out the shop. So that got reported to the police, and then some of the neighbours tried to do something about it. I can't really say where it is, it discloses a guy, but it's a wee small village in Falkirk, and there's Glasgow taxis at this address constantly, and they drop kids off at night. The guy doesn't have any kids of his own, but the neighbours have said there's young kids as young as 7 and 8 getting dropped off in Glasgow taxis outside his house. This is in a wee village in Falkirk. It has been reported to the police. There's nothing been done about it yet, but it was just to raise awareness and try and get that out there, because these neighbours have been through hell up there and they're absolutely terrified that their kids are in danger. The neighbours tried to approach the Asian guy that's staying up there, and he drives a Glasgow taxi, and he got all his family from Glasgow to come up in taxis and threaten them all, so they can't really do anything like that either. But this guy, the guy said that it breaks his heart, and he basically got to send me video footage and that, but there's young kids get dropped off and stay overnight, and then there's taxis go in and out this flat all night. So that's another thing I wanted to raise awareness about. So as I said, the police are saying Gavin Hill's moving away. It moved away long ago. Like it's extended the whole of Scotland. These people operate from. As I said, there was one in Denniston, there was one in Maryhill, there was one in the south side somewhere.
Sorry, man. What do you mean by that? Didn't he go there anymore?
No, who?
Gavin Hill?
No, they're still there. I'm just saying
Aye.
that as well as there's a base there, and they operate through there,
I hear you,
and
aye.
they have babies there, and the traffic
Aye,
them.
aye.
They're now in every city in Scotland.
Aye,
They're in
just
Falkirk,
everywhere,
they're in
aye.
Alaba, because these guys have got flats, like
I
they've got
thought
property.
that, I thought
They've bought
Oh,
property
my
years
God.
ago, so they've got property
Thought that,
everywhere.
aye.
So I just want to end it on to say what me and Laura are going to do. So we're going to write to the prosecutor fiscal. I can't remember, somebody will. We're going to write to the prosecutor fiscal and ask them why there's no investigations getting taken into these things and why they're refusing to investigate it, whether it's their fault or whether it's Nicola Sturgeon's.
Yay.
Because if somebody's responsible for no investigations. But also, as you know, Jane and Sandy have just refused £80,000 for the Scottish Government because they were to silence them
money.
so that they wouldn't be able to talk about their abusers. Well, they've refused that, so we're going to take quarriers to court. We're going to take quarriers to court, and they're going to take them to court themselves and the Scottish Government for the years of abuse in the orphanages in Scotland.
What's happening, mate?
We're also raising awareness about the boarding schools just now because that's part of the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry that's suspended. It's been suspended and it's in
I'm 50
Dunblane.
and I'm still waiting.
Nicola Sturgeon's moving to Dunblane. The next part of the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry is in Dunblane, and it's the Queen Victoria School. Every Scottish boarding school, there's been child abuse. We're also going to write to the prosecutor fiscal about Holly Gregg and ask why there was no investigation into the Holly Gregg case and represent the evidence. And we're also going to write to the prosecutor fiscal and ask why there was no investigation into Respawner.
Yes. Hashtag justice for
So
Rita.
we're going to write to the prosecutor fiscal and ask about Reece because there's no police investigation.
Justice for
So
Reece.
they never, we don't know if it's the prosecutor fiscal that's responsible or if it's the police that's responsible for that. But somebody's responsible for no lodging an investigation, and we need to hold them to account first before we can ask for another investigation into that, whether it be late or not. And also, I just wanted to end it on, right, see, we know there's coronavirus, right, but I am totally against masks. Kids shouldn't be learning that masks are normal. Masks are for, like, bank robbers and stuff like that. And I'm not having the psychological damage that it's having on young kids. Nobody's aware of the
hear
mask.
you.
There's no reason for these masks. The masks don't work. There's no any protection. All they're doing is teaching your kids can't see facial expressions. They can't see if you're scared, angry, sad. And then they don't know the dangers of masks. If somebody runs into a shop and robs it, our kids aren't even going to react. They've been conditioned that it's acceptable and that it's normal. And it's no normal. Kids need to be able to see faces. They need to be able to identify people. If a child was kidnapped, how's they going to identify their kidnapper if they've got a mask on? They can't. What do they look like? With brown eyes? Come on. This is not on. We need to stop. Right, fair enough, social distance, whatever they can do, whatever they want. But this mask needs to stop.
That
For
doesn't
the
apply to
psychological
paedophiles.
effects our kids are going to have for years to come. Our kids will have nightmares about that. Like it's not on. Kids need to be able to see who's who and what's happening round about them. It's part of their psychological makeup. There's no reason.
It's shocking.
The reason that the damage far outweighs like the good in wearing masks. So like for kids it's not on and it needs to stop. And
Hashtag
so that's me, I'm done. If anybody else wants to speak,
children.
then feel free, then they want to talk.
Well done, man.
Thank you. Well done, man.
Yeah,
The biggest pandemic out there is that paedophiles. Pedodemic. Let's expose these care homes. The care homes are people in power using authority to use and abuse our brains. Take them out of families that are loving to do what? The word care should be took out. I'm a survivor for the 80s LSD school
Yeah.
that I was put into off my mat. I was boisterous, say the word boisterous. I was put into a place with a male headmaster, a couple of female staff, but a few male. Let's just say they were heavy-handed. To get home, it was basically sit on his knee, tell him how much a good lassie you'd been to try and get him to see your mother. Try and talk up. They put it on you. They say you're an attention seeker, you're a troublemaker. I ran away. They didn't even know I was out the door until the police came to them. They said, "If you go to so-and-so." Aye, she'd been here all day. I hadn't been there all day. I'd been running about the town. The questions need to be asked. Why was I not even noticed away?
Exactly.
Yeah, they're no caring for the kids.
You try to speak up to a panel, they shoot you down, they blame you. My abuse turned me into addictions. Addictions kept me, I didn't want to deal with it, I didn't know how to deal with it. I had an addiction when I was about 10-year-old. No adult around me ever sat me down and spoke to me about it. I didn't even know what addictions was. My schooling was upper close. You had a drug addiction centre in the bottom, like a family centre in the middle, and then the top flat was a schooling. I had no education. It was a Magnum Centre, do this, do that, big for your social worker. There was a member of staff in it, and he was heavy with his horns. I think that's how I put a wall up. And I suppose I probably put a cover up. I nip before somebody nips at me. And that's not me. I was an angry lassie for a lot of years because I didn't understand a lot of what was going on. My first abuse, I think, was about 10, but I didn't even see it as abuse because it was swept under the carpet and it made me feel I'd done wrong. And it was a pal's brother. And he held me, we were all playing away in the middle of the summer. So we swimming costumes on and things like that, and then out this mad bath thing. We had fun. I think it was brilliant. I was the last one out. The last one out, pulled a blade out, held it to me, trying to get me to touch him and that. And I can remember nothing really get says or done about it. It was stay away from him. And I didn't understand it, thinking, is that the way people were meant to treat you? That led to me then just like bumping off school and things like that, because rather than say I was stuck with something, I would be the class clown and get myself out of trouble and get through the class, and I would just dog it, shoplift, dog it, get to jail, try and take me back to school, and that was it. Then I remember sat down and says, why is this 11-year-old buzzing blue? What was behind it? This girl was getting addiction. There was an addiction centre down the stairs for me. Why didn't anybody ever speak to me? Why didn't the adult ever question it?
Shocking.
Listen, get your asses out. Don't let our children down. There was too many children let down, 70s, 80s, 90s to the day. All these people in power in these care homes, these school units. There's too many people abusing that power that shouldn't be there. Let's expose them. Let's get it from under the carpet. Let's make the carpet free them.
Yeah.
Don't wait. I'm 50 years old and I still fight every day with me and heat because of what I've went through. Don't make me statistics for the future generation.
Well done, So, right, we're just going to quickly read before we go the Freedom of Information letter request for Police Scotland that Laura received. So this is a letter. I refer to your recent request for the information which has been handled in accordance with the Freedom of Information Scotland Act 2002. For ease of reference, your request is replicated below together with the response. Prior to responding to your information request, I wish to highlight that keeping children and young people safe is a priority for Police Scotland, and we strive to continually improve our understanding of the nature and the scale of child sexual abuse. We work closely with partner agencies to identify children who may be at risk of many forms of child abuse, including neglect, physical abuse, emotional abuse, child sexual exploitation, grooming, and increasingly the threat of online offending. Protecting children requires a well-coordinated and committed partnership approach with children and young people who may be at risk are proactively identified, protected and supported through partnerships working will improve our response to child protection and increase opportunities for early and effective interventions in respect of children and perpetrators. Well, we're raising awareness so early intervention could come through that.
Yep.
So under the Freedom of Information Act Scotland 2002, I would like to request the figures of reported child exploitation in the last 5 years in Scotland. That's what Laura asked for. I would like to know the number of reports that were made in Scotland regarding this. So, and this is the response. Having considered your request in terms of the above act, I regret to inform you that I am unable to provide you with the information you have requested.
Why is it not updated for 2000? This is 2021.
Because Police Scotland lost every single report in 2016 of child exploitation.
Did they?
Every single report in 2016.
Give us Mickey Mouse numbers.
So we'll quick get it up. So, as it would prove too costly to do so within the context of the fee regulations, as you may be aware, the current cost threshold is £600.
There you go.
And
there's
I
the whole
estimate-
thing there. It's all about money.
And I estimate that it would cost well in excess of this amount to process the Scotland
children
Act
are worth spending the money.
where Section 12 of the Act, excessive cost of compliance, has been applied. So they've used a part of the Act to apply the excessive cost, Section 12, and that has been applied, so they don't need to give us the information.
Why should we need to pay to
So
find out
this-
how many children are being exploited on our streets? Why should we need to pay for that?
It then goes on to
It
say
should
this.
be free for all.
Exactly.
Aye.
As parents, as
shouldn't need to
grandparents, his aunts, his uncles, we should blame it on
It's
all.
our money.
So it says, so that has been applied, and this represents a refusal notice for the information sought.
No, they've
So
actually put under the carpet.
So they've refused to give us the numbers, and then it says, by way of explanation, there are a number of definitions in existence that describe criminal behaviour associated with child exploitation. One definition contained with the Scottish Government Child Sexual Exploitation Definition and Practitioner Briefings paper published in October 2016 identifies child sexual
Practitioner?
exploitation in
Would you think
Scotland.
they're no paedophiles at all?
So it's basically just a load of rubbish now they're saying, but they're not giving us the information because they're saying it costs too much. But as Laura stated, it's because they lost all the information in 2016 and she's asked for it before then.
And how far back have they lost the
So-
information
So
law?
Thanks,
I've asked for
everybody.
information for 2016. There's not one record of child sexual exploitation in Glasgow in 2016 because they lost every single record.
Why is that not updated?
But-
So that's a big question mark there.
It's because they lost them in purpose, that's why.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? They then go on to tell us about what sexual exploitation means and what happens in sexual exploitation. We know better than them. They don't fucking know.
How can they
Hence why
do-
we're in this situation. Do you know
How
what I
can
mean?
they even
There's
do
also-
statistics when the new all ways are getting is right, we'll do a video call? How the fuck can they tell any sort of form of abuse through a video call? They should be seen face to face.
Yeah, they don't even get the
Everyone- it should
respect
be
and the
written
dignity
down
they deserve.
Every way or person is being abused out there, and the statistics are just Mickey Mouse statistics.
There's a new act that came out in 2015, the Child Trafficking Scotland Act.
Aye.
So I'm going to have a wee look into that as well, because there's got to be some laws broke under that. Although we're trying to go away from the law because the legal system's corrupt, but
We all
some need to
know,
hold
we
them to
all
account.
know they cover it up. So it's down to us as parents, aunties, uncles, fathers, uncles. It's down to us, the public, to get the awareness out there. If we don't do it and we don't help our rains, God help our rains for the future generation.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to ever go through any form of abuse I've ever went through. I've always led to picking this one for a partner, picking that one for a partner, thinking that's all I was worth. No, all our children are worth more than that. Don't let anybody abuse you, whether it's man, woman, child, anything. Don't let it take any form of abuse. Get to know abuse, understand abuse. If you're in a recent relationship with somebody, please use Clare's Law and get your partner looked into. If you're just starting a relationship and you've got children in your household, please get Clare's Law. Whether you're a man or a woman, there's a lot of women out there that's abusers too. Don't let it happen. I've let it happen to me early years because I thought that's all I deserved. And probably that's led me to kind of, in my own way, abuse other people with my anger.
It's a survive, it's a survival.
Because it's all I know.
It's a survival.
It's all I've been taught. It's all I've been generated in early years until I started getting clean for drugs and understanding myself and what makes me tick. And anger makes me tick. I can thrive off anger, but I don't want to be like that, and I don't want my child to be like that.
And that's why we're all here, because we don't want this for our future generations. Where somebody like Margaret get failed and life's been
I'm a hermit, I'll be honest. As much as
fight.
people see me as a strong woman, I'm not to an extent, but when I get home and I close my door, I'm not a strong woman. I'm kind of broken, but I do everything myself. Because I want to know myself, I want to get to know myself.
Find your strength.
Yep.
And I know I can be a strong woman for other people. And if somebody hears my story, what I went through, and it just clicks with them to just try and open up, then I'm happy. And I want my daughter to know that she can be a strong, independent woman on her own. And I don't mean it in a bad way, because there's a lot of good men out there, but there's a lot of assholes out there, I know. And I want my daughter to know she doesn't need to rely on yourself, because see, at the end of the day, it's down to yourself. When I get home, I shut my door and that's me. You know what I mean? I'm like the nicest person you can get, but at the same time push my buttons, and I can be the nastiest person. But I need to show my daughter to be a strong woman on your own, and don't take anything
And keep your
for
fight
anybody.
for your daughter. And don't
She's at that. She doesn't even understand abuse or anything like that. She doesn't even. She's got global learning, and she doesn't even understand when somebody's being nasty to her. And it
scares
me because she's nothing like me. She's nothing like me. Do you know what I mean? And she's just all love and wants to be loved, and that breaks my heart, because I see her sometimes and I see people like wee pals about you. Wayne's a fucking
everybody and
if somebody says to her, I hate you, it would just go in her head.
Aye.
But then she's got a mammy like you, Margaret, to keep her safe and love her. How many kids, Wayne's like yours, are
My
there that
way
don't
of
have
dealing
the
with it
parents
was
and
putting
they're
my fists
vulnerable?
up. She's no, she doesn't. She wouldn't even. She would stick up for her pal in a minute. If somebody hit a pal, she'd be right there. Now who you hitting? But if somebody hitting her,
But she's
she'd
vulnerable.
cover, and that scares me.
Aye.
That scares me, because I know people are going to try and walk ahead of her.
But they won't,
And-
because she's got you.
I need an army. You know what you're saying? A village brings a way up. A village doesn't bring a way up.
We need each other to come together for our
I'm
Wayne's
on
and
my
keep
own
her
with
safe.
my child 24/7. I get no support whatsoever. Do you know what I mean? The only person that supports me is Corey is, because I'm a carer.
That's why we need
and
that's
it's
why we
horrible.
need to be here, because
And
there's
can
no
we
support
go
for
back to
anybody.
that email for 2
My
seconds?
psychologist
Aye.
is like, oh, you're brand new, you don't need help.
To be sex messages.
People have been asking us to set up a GoFundMe thing or whatever to try and raise money to get the
I'm
information
taking
for
that
the,
to Davey.
for the freedom of information thing. We're not setting up a GoFundMe. We don't need to pay to get information about how many children are being raped. But I just want to put it out there that
everybody get help.
we're not paying £600 to get information about
Not
how
more
many
than
children
that.
have been exploited on our streets. We're not going to pay a penny. Like we've got the right to that information,
Yeah,
haven't we?
we've got the right to that
And we'll
information
challenge
for free.
it. We'll challenge
It's
it
your
until we
children.
get the information.
What we
We're not
need is
going to
more
pay a
people
penny.
on our streets, being here with us, supporting, getting awareness out there. Because if you come, you can then get home and tell your ma, your granny, your auntie, your uncle, your brother, your sister, your nephew, and then in
Exactly.
time they might come. So we need more people with their feet on the ground.
Like there's legit 20 people here the day. There's like what 22 people here the day. How is people not outraged about children being raped on our streets every day?
Because as long as it's not happening to their kids,
Exactly.
it's okay.
But see the people that don't listen to us, see the people that don't turn up here, it's going to happen to your kid, and that's when you're going to be outraged, and that's when you're not going to get any help because you've not gave a fuck the rest of the time. Sorry, but
If
that's
you don't stand up and come and support this, it's going to get worse, the problem's going to get out of control, and it will be your kids or your grandkids. Like, that's why we need to come
Nobody
together. Our
cares.
government's doing nothing, our police are doing nothing.
Exactly,
That's why
Laura.
we are here, hail, rain or snow.
There's legit grooming gangs on our streets and nobody cares apart from us that
No.
are here every single Saturday. Nobody gives
They're
a
not
fuck.
even our
Why?
kids that are running about out there, but we can't sleep at night.
What else
Exactly.
can we do to get them?
We can't, nothing.
Raise
Use your
awareness,
voice.
Because the
get
police
the
don't,
police
the
to do
police don't give a
investigations,
fuck.
I thought you knew.
what
right
can
to
we
the
do?
prosecutor
I hear
fiscals.
you, mate. I hear you.
write to the Scottish Government.
Aye.
That's about, and we just keep harassing them. That's about
Yep.
all we can do. But we ultimately need people to get up, like
feel like
mothers
doing
and
something
fathers,
else like
to get
that.
up
Aye,
onto the
same
streets
sort they are.
and start shouting and raising awareness and saying our kids aren't safe. Like, our government isn't going to protect them, our legal system isn't going to get them justice. So we need to find them justice and we need to protect them.
We don't give a shit about COVID, we don't give a shit about vaccines, we don't give a shit about lockdown, we don't give a shit about 5G. All we care about is the wins.
That problem's much worse than
Every
COVID
day
ever could be.
is we don't give up on the future
Yeah.
generation, we don't let the rains down.
No.
Definitely.
Come out.
We've got a chance in this
100%.
generation to change it
Yeah.
for the future of our kids. And if
Definitely.
we sit back and do nothing, it'll just get 10 times worse than it's ever been in any generation. And we'll be responsible because we done we knew about it and we done nothing, and we allowed our governments to keep abusing them. So it's
Definitely.
time now to make a stand and
Like,
stop
be
this.
outraged and come and join us on a Saturday.
Yeah.
It's
As
no much
hard
to
as it is to look at all that stuff, and it's heartbreaking. Think of the kids that are going through that. How heartbreaking and
Every
scary
single
and
day.
terrifying is it for them? Like, we need to make it our duty to have to read this stuff and deal with it, because we need to protect and save these kids from it. And unless we can actually deal with it, we can't save anybody's kids. You need to stop not looking at stuff that upsets you just because it upsets you, and start thinking of the kids that it's happening to.
Stop worrying about who's wearing a mask and who's not wearing a mask. Stop worrying about who's been vaccinated and who's not been vaccinated. Worry about the kids that have been raped every single day on the streets.
Be
That's what
cautious.
it's about.
Be cautious. Who's round about your children?
Exactly, all the time.
Yep.
Aye.
Check everything, check all their devices, check their every move, stalk them. You really need to be stalking them just now, because when they're sneaking away, you don't know what's going on. There's predators everywhere just now, and they're getting it, they're running loose, and they're desperate. They're literally trying to snatch kids off the street.
Speak to your kids.
Yeah, I talk to them. Don't argue and fight with them through this, because you'll push them further away. You'll push them into the arms of the people that are abusing them without
Exactly.
even realising you're doing it. If
Communicate.
you constantly have conflict with your child's going to run to somebody that's going to make them feel safe.
Because this is what these people do. They make kids feel like they love them. Like I'm the
I'll
only
buy
one
you
that
this
I'm the
and
only
I'll
one
buy
that
you
cares
that.
about you.
Understand
Like
you.
there's money, there's trainers, there's drugs, whatever it takes.
Your
do you know
mum
what I
and
mean?
dad are arseholes.
Our
etc.,
kids are not
etc.
safe on our streets, and people need to open their eyes to that. Like kids that hang about in Glasgow, they're no safe
No.
at all. And it doesn't matter how much you educate your kids on grooming gangs, paedophiles, whatever, they're still no safe. And everybody
They're
needs
still
to stand
vulnerable
up
and they're
now.
still kids at the end of the day.
Check
So
your kids'
they can still be
devices.
broken
Yep.
down, aye. And then
Aye.
they're having a drink, they're vulnerable. If they're drunk and that, they really don't know what they're doing. They wake up in somebody's house. These people have video footage of the kids to then blackmail them after it.
Yep.
So then before they know it, they're
I'm
right
gonna tell
deep
your
in
family.
it, because they've
Aye.
got online. Can you picture that, Wayne? Like, they're showing naked pictures and that, and they're going to show their pals in school and that. Like, that kid's life's over. So they'll do anything. Before they know it, they're getting trafficked down flats all over
Aye.
Glasgow and Scotland, and they don't know a way out of it anymore, and they're too deep in it, and they're terrified because they are
don't
only
care.
kids.
These kids are involved with social workers.
Most of them must be
What
care
have
homes.
you. They don't
Yep.
care.
No, and they're absolutely terrified, and they still believe they're the ones that are wrong. The kids believe they've done wrong because they've been taking drugs, they've been drinking, they've been having sex. They believe that they're going to get punished for that. But we need to raise awareness that they're only kids. They've been taught to do that stuff. And
we
they're only
need to-
even 16, 17, they're still kids.
We need to realise that we're the only ones that can protect our children now. The police aren't going to protect them. The police have let 22 members of that grooming gang walk free back into Glasgow and then try to keep it secret for us. Do you know what I mean? We're the only ones that can protect them, so
And they're not doing aye.
exactly.
They've let them walk back free, but they're no extra patrolling our streets
Aye.
to keep their kids safe, so somebody's going to need to. And they kept it secret for 3 years. So for 3 years our kids were still in danger in the town,
And it's
when
not
there could have
just
been
the
people
Asian
like us walking
community.
about and making sure they're
It's for
safe.
any community. It's not just the Asian community.
No,
it's
it's
for any
Scottish
kids.
as well.
Oh,
Look at
every
the town
week-
heat. What, 13 to 17
Aye.
now?
Scottish.
Oh,
Well,
jail for a couple of years and back out. Where are they back out?
Yeah.
Where are they?
the four,
yeah,
you
Glasgow
see the
somewhere.
four corners, I've spoke to 3 wee girls that have been trafficked to that four corners, you have as well.
Aye.
They've been white Scottish guys, they're no Asian guys, so see all this racism bullshit, let's stop it. We're no racist, do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what colour you're, what religion you're. If you're touching kids, we're going to expose you.
Aye.
It's simple as
And a
that.
paedophile's a paedophile. It
Exactly,
doesn't matter if
doesn't
you're a
matter
new
what colour
green
you are.
alien species, you're a fucking
The guys that are
paedophile.
involved in the four corners are white Scottish.
White Scottish.
Scottish guys, just
The whole
make
lot
that
of them.
clear. And that's still going on at the Four Corners?
Yep. And these guys again have got flats across Scotland where they take the kids. They usually abuse them there first and then start dropping them at the Four Corners as prostitutes.
And then pass them about.
And one wee girl told the police every single address that she had been trafficked to for the Four Corners, Edinburgh, Ayr and Saltcote. She gave every single address and the police didn't even bother to go and check them.
Didn't even do it. They done their own undercover investigation and arrested 7 guys.
And let them all go.
And then let them all go, aye.
Aye.
So they're still operating as well, and that was only a few years ago. That wee
So
girl
that's
still
how
only about
safe our
18.
kids are. Aye.
Shocking one. It's happening for our children.
So we need to get together as in communities as well. Watch in your communities. Like if you see something dodgy, like, report it. Just keep reporting it to the police. You're not doing anything wrong. You could be protecting away in the future. Being a prostitute dropped at the Four Corners. And we all just need to stick together.
You can stick your new world order up your arse.